huge bill.
That's actually when we switched to Vonage.
The service is great.
I don't see any difference with the call quality.
More, I can just pick up the phone, call
as many family members as I want.
Ugh, why did I not do this earlier? I'm Laura Pruden,
and this was my last bill
before I switched to Vonage.
Stop wasting your money. Switch to Vonage now for unlimited international calling for both your home and mobile phones for just $9.99 a month for the first 3 months. Call 877-4Vonage or visit Vonage.com today.
His image first popped up in this convention center on those big screens behind me early yesterday. At first you're thinking, is that who I think it is? It was. Neil Armstrong, the most apolitical of astronauts who ever stepped out into space, dominating jumbo screens in what this week is the most political of places. I'm not sure how Neil Armstrong would feel about that, but I sense this most intensely private man who passed away this weekend at the age of 82 would wince at that, no matter who was doing that. You don't have to believe me in what I'm saying. Just look at Armstrong himself over the more than 4 decades since he first stepped foot on the moon and what he was not doing. Not profiting off that mission, not trumpeting off that mission, not so much as even talking about that mission, save those occasional special moments when they all but twisted Neil Armstrong's arm to commemorate that mission. Like back on the 35th anniversary of that historic moon landing when Armstrong joined his Apollo 11 crew members Buzz Aldrin and Michael Collins and faced down yet again the hero thing. Do you get annoyed? I know you were all being congratulated at the White House today with the hero label.
I guess we don't think of it that way. We just think as people were given extraordinary opportunities and extraordinary times, and we're very grateful to have had that.
Aware of the White House setting, Armstrong assiduously avoided the temptation of many of his astronaut colleagues to bash Washington's indifference to the space program. The last man on the moon, Gene Cernan, not nearly so reticent.
All I can do personally and some of my colleagues is to keep pounding and pounding away at what we believe in and why we believe it's a right.
Do you think anyone's listening?
Yes. The American people are listening.
You think President Obama is?
Politicians may
you think President Obama is?
No, I don't. I don't think he understands what America and what the traditions of and what being the leader of the free world has meant to the people of this country.
While Armstrong never said such things, you got a feeling maybe old Neil thought such things, that he shared Cernan's frustration with politicians in general. Neil Armstrong, you know, when John Kennedy had said almost more than 4 decades ago that he wanted to land a man on the moon and safely return him to Earth before that decade was out, do we need something like that today to reinvigorate the space program? Is it necessary? What do you think?
Well, it does take leadership. There is no doubt that things don't happen. Big projects in this world don't happen without leadership and the support of the public in general. So that's understandable and probably appropriate.
Do you think, Neil, that the problems we've had with the space shuttle weren't just junking it, replacing with something else?
Well, I think the space shuttle has been a remarkable piece of machinery. It's done a yeoman's job now over decades. And of course, it's had a couple of tragedies which we all will remember forever. But the people in the shuttle do a wonderful job, and I give them enormous credit for all they've achieved.
Neil, there's been a lot of private company talk taking over space travel. This one that really was able to, via jet, to get into space and then back down to Earth. That this might be more the future space travel. What do you think of that?
Well, I hope that's true, but there's a long way to go from where we are today to that scenario becoming a reality.
For months now, we've been preparing this big Fox News special on the 40th anniversary of the end of the Apollo program, including fascinating chats with each and every hero who got us there. I felt we were getting this close to Neil, and all the guys I interviewed were working the phones to make sure I would get to Neil. But Neil was sick. Maybe afterwards, maybe after he got better. And so we waited, and so we hoped. And now, this. So sad. The man who all these heroes, to a man, said was a special hero among heroes, now gone, now unable to speak. His only impression, a footprint. The first of a human being on a world far, far from this one. A powerful footprint. Unspeakably so. No wonder politicians want to savor his memory. I think it's about savoring something more. our very human soul.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
You know, no one ever knew Neil Armstrong's political affiliations. He kept that to himself. In fact, he didn't like to talk about politicians. But, you know, in getting ready for my next interview with Ohio Senator Rob Portman, I cross-referenced to do. You could do that, you know, when you do one of these Google searches. I could only dig up that if Armstrong had anything favorable to say about politicians, it was only this particular guy, the fine senator from the state of Ohio, who will be delivering a eulogy for Mr. Armstrong on Friday. By the way, the President of the United States has ordered that all flags be flown at half-staff on that day. And I don't think there'll be much quibbling about that, Senator. Will there? Very good to have you.
Neil, good to be on with you again.
It's quite an honor. You knew him very much. We were joking in the break here that you both kind of had the same kind of level, low-key temperament. So I guess I'm not too shocked. But where does the friendship go back?
Well, he's from Ohio. You know, he was born and raised in Ohio. And when he left NASA, he came home. He was the last person to want to cash in on his successes and his notoriety. He wanted to come home. He was a professor at University of Cincinnati, my hometown.
Right.
And he actually moved to a farm outside of Lebanon, which is a town outside of Cincinnati where my mom grew up. And I just got to know him over the years, and incredibly warm, gracious, humorous guy, had a quick wit, and a wonderful smile. And, he was a hero for all of us. And to me, he was a hero not just for his incredible accomplishments, but also as a person. Just a great family man and wonderful person.
Is that true? The stories you hear saying that he was a reluctant pioneer. I mean, he almost, when he found out that he would be the one chosen to go on the moon, it wasn't that he dreaded it, but the pressure of that was more, not so whether he was up to the job, but to the public relations that came with that. You're going to be wanted for speeches. You're going to be wanted for interviews. Pesky media types like me are always going to be bothering you. And it was that part that he didn't really relish, huh?
Well, he didn't need the spotlight.
Right.
I mean, a lot of people talk about Neil as being a private guy. Yeah, I mean, he's like most Americans. It was not about the spotlight or, the notoriety for him. He didn't want to be a celebrity. He felt he was doing his duty. I mean, I often felt with Neil that he wondered what all the fuss was about him, that, yes, what he did was incredibly dangerous. It required a lot of expertise, not just as an astronaut, but also as a fighter pilot and a test pilot. But he felt like he was doing his duty, and that was reward enough. It was time for him to go home, and he went home, kind of like Cincinnatus. He went home after
that's right. That's
his
right.
duty.
That's right. You were recently just passed up for the number 2 spot on this ticket. Paul Ryan got it. Any wincing post that?
Paul's a terrific choice, and I think he has energized Republicans, and I think he's got exactly the right message for this campaign, which is about how to turn this economy around. He's got specific ideas, both in terms of dealing with our record debts and deficits, and if we don't deal with those, we're not going to be able to see the robust recovery we all
You've made a compelling argument for that.
Well, look, Paul's terrific, though.
Yeah.
He's great, but he's a believer in the opportunity society, which is growth, and there's a way for us to get out of this problem we're in, and that's by tax reform, regulatory relief, expanding trade, doing the things we need to do to develop our own energy resources. Paul's a believer in all that, and he can speak to it articulately. And
you think this ticket can still carry your fine state of Ohio without you on that ticket?
Oh, yeah. I think we might carry Wisconsin and Ohio now.
Yeah. Is there something Midwest in place, Senator? Because this ticket is very competitive in all of those Midwestern states, and there does seem to be a sort of a domino theory here. Maybe it does well in Wisconsin, it does well in Michigan, where ironically it's leading, and that's the bailout state. That maybe there is something here.
Yeah, we got some good poll numbers out of Pennsylvania recently. Look, I think people are frustrated. They're tired of where we are. 3.5 years later, the promises that were made have not been kept. They want to see some hope for the future, and that's exactly what Mitt Romney and Paul Ryan are offering. And, frankly, Neil, as opposed to President Obama in 2008, who had a very compelling message, these guys actually have a record of working across the aisle, getting stuff done. Look at what Mitt Romney was able to do in Massachusetts. Not just taking a $3 billion deficit and turning into a $2 billion surplus, but doing so while cutting taxes with a Democrat legislature. They've also got the experience working in the private sector in the case of Mitt Romney and Paul Ryan. No, they make compelling case,
but they have to sell that, right? And I'm told that you, to help them sell that, are going to help the candidate prepare that as Mitt Romney for the debates by playing the role of Barack Obama. Is that true?
Well, I'm going to be helping. I helped John McCain as well, and Dick Cheney and George Bush, and it's an honor to be able to help. I was asked.
All the president's talking points. All the things he's going to ram. What do you think the number one thing he's going to keep pushing?
Well, he can't talk about his record because it's a failed record, even by his own standards. You know, he said unemployment would be 50% lower than it is today. Sadly, you know, he was wrong. So I think he's going to be on the attack. And, you know, we've seen that in Ohio. You and I talked about it, but the ads have been relentless. They've been negative. You know, unfortunately, this campaign hasn't been about the big ideas because the Obama administration, I think, is not willing to talk about the record and talk about how we can get out of this mess. Instead, they want to vilify Mitt Romney and his private sector career. So I think he'll probably be talking about that to try to avoid discussion about where we are and how we can get out of this mess, which is what Mitt Romney and Paul Ryan offered to Ohio voters and voters throughout this country. Is there is a better way, and we'll hear a lot about that at this convention.
All right. I wonder if you do any Barack Obama impressions, but I'll leave that at that as these debate preparations go.
Thanks, Ian.
Senator Rob Portman, of course, who has the unique honor of delivering one of the eulogies for the late Neil Armstrong. When we come back, remembering another convention that was all about rallying the troops. Only back then it was rallying the moderates around a conservative. This time it's about rallying the conservatives around a moderate. Ed Meese remembers well. He's back to remind folks today. Stick around, more live coverage from Tampa of the Republican Convention. More to this.
The Fox Business Network's 2012 election coverage is brought to you by U.S. Bank. All of us serving you. Member FDIC.
You see us at the start of the day. On the company phone list that's a few names longer. You see U.S. Bank on busier highways, on once empty fields. Every day, you see all the ways all of us at U.S. Bank are helping grow our economy, lending more so companies and communities can expand, grow stronger, and get back to work. Every day, you see all of us serving you, around the country, around the corner. U.S. Bank.
You know what I love about this country? Trick question. I love everything about this country, including Prilosec OTC. You know, one pill each morning treats your frequent heartburn so you can enjoy all this great land of ours has to offer. Like demolition derbies and drive-through weddings. So if you're one of those people that gets heartburn and then treats day after day, block the acid with Prilosec OTC and don't get heartburn in the first place.
One pill each morning, 24 hours, zero heartburn.
You already compare prices for flights and car insurance. Now find out how much Trivago can save you on hotels. Trivago compares hotel prices from over 100 websites to find you the best price.